Welcome back, everybody, to Inside Texas Baseball. I'm your host, Evan Beeth, as always, joined by the Nash Talks Texas. As you can see, Nash is in the same place as always, but I'm somewhere. I'm in Cancun, of all places, Nash. I have not seen the UTSA baseball team yet, which is a bit surprising. That usually where the eliminated teams go. No hate towards UTSA, but yeah, I'm actually somehow in better lighting when I'm in a hotel room than when I'm in my regular setup. But Nash, it's great to be here, and we finally got some Texas baseball news, huh?
Yeah, no, we finally got some Texas baseball news, and yeah, I don't know who this UTSA team is. I know UT Senior UTSR, but uh, you know, just wishing a happy Father's Day to our parents.
I think after this year, I don't know if we can do that. Maybe for A&M, you can send out that card, but
No, no,
it
oh
is
no,
just
I'm saying I'm UTSA. My dad, love my dad, right?
yeah, on
So
Twitter at least. On Twitter at least. Even though it's just past Father's Day, and then Texas did get a little bit farther this past year. There's been some good news on the portal front because Texas is keeping in that range of the 64. I know it's like 80 to 90 players because picked up two commitments this week. The most recent one was Caleb Freeman, who is this kind of catcher first base, like pure utility hybrid, not going to play third or short, but can kind of play anywhere else in the field. It was from Georgia State, I believe. And a big pickup, one of those kind of dirtbag players that you love. You love the Ethan Mendoza types. Talk a little bit about what Freeman's going to give this team because it's a little bit up in the air of what maybe his position is going to be for the next year.
yeah, I mean, you mentioned the utility factor. This is a dude that he's played. I believe he played right field. He's dabbled in some center field. So clearly he has an arm on him. Uh, he primarily played second base last year for Georgia State, but he was listed as a catcher for Auburn. Also had was primarily a catcher for I believe it was St. John's River State, his junior college. So it's a dude that pretty much aside from left field, shortstop, and pitcher, I think he's played every position. So like this is a guy that I think that he fits the Jim Saucingo mold perfectly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jim Saucingo is the type of guy that he's a lot like Sark, where Sark gets the best 11 guys on the field. Jim Saucingo is going to find the best 9 guys to put in a lineup, and he's going to get them on the baseball field, and he's going to find the positions they best play. And I think that he continues to add on a lot of versatility to a really versatile roster. I mean, you look at a guy like Casey Borber, he can play third base, he can play second base, he can DH, he can play first base. Okay, you go to Adrian Rodriguez, he can play left field, he can play second base, he can play third base, he can play shortstop or not short. Well, he might play short. He might be able to play
Yeah.
shortstop. Who knows that with how many positions he's already played, but he can play first base. He's all kind of famous with the whole ambidextrous. If he goes to play first base, he all
Yeah,
of a
maybe
sudden
throw
turns
lefty.
into a lefty thrower. So it's one of these deals where, man, adding on a guy like this, he really gives this lineup a lot of versatility, and it also reminds me a lot of Kimball Schuster, a guy that doesn't play first base, but hey, we need you as a starter, and you're not playing catcher, so go stand over there on first.
Yeah, and he brings a switch hitter, which Texas likes to have. I mean, Rodriguez started with that, and probably will be doing that again next year in theory if he can. But yeah, like you said, Rodriguez and Borba came into the year being able to play 3 to 4 positions of their own, and Rodriguez maybe that's shortstop, maybe that's first base, but then Livingston, who comes in from Wichita State, first, second, third base eligibility, kind of like Borba. Freeman can play anywhere you need him to, and I think that's just what Slauson, like you said, it would have been awesome to have someone like Freeman on this team last year. Like we're injured at second base, he can go play there. We're injured in the outfield, he can go play there. If Galvan needed a day off, he can go play there. I think the projection with him, like you said, he's a former Auburn player, used to be in the SEC, went to JUCO, went to Georgia State. Now for his last year is coming to Texas. Is draft eligible? Too old to be drafted anywhere notable. And he's about, I think he's going to be 23 years old for next season. So I do think that he might not be the catcher for next year, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. I'm not sure if he's at this point in his career going to be able to be an elite defensive guy like Galvan was, and or even just a top tier in the SEC guy. But like you said, I like what you talked about the Schuster thing. This may be the first baseman because that's just the spot that Texas needs him. They don't need a second baseman. We'll talk in a second about right field. Jonah Williams is playing left. Borba Rodriguez play third. Maybe that's just the best spot for him is to go in first base. But him being able to play all those spots and if someone gets injured, if there's someone who needs a day off, it's going to be really important for this team. And he's a good bat. Switch hitter who wears number 99. I'm all in for that.
Yeah, no, I love the whole eye black, long
Yep,
hair. Like he's just he's
he's
a
a
guy that
ball
looks like
player.
he's a guy that like in the world of baseball, you love the dudes that have look like they got a lot of swagger, and he's one of those dudes. And you mentioned like he's watching him play baseball just looks like a total dirtbag. Like
Hmm.
this is one of those guys that becomes a fan favorite almost instantly on the team. But this is the one thing that I'll also like look at this as is, man, you go from last year where we had pretty righty dominant lineup, right? And then now all of a
Very.
sudden you add in three lefty transfers, right?
Hmm.
One of them being a switch hitter. So this just adds a lot. Like Jim Slossino, he talked about, hey, I want to get some of these lefty guys in, right?
Hmm.
These are all some legit lefty studs, and in the case of a Caleb Freeman, this is a guy that similarly to Adrian Rodriguez, if you were gonna, say, "Hey, we want you to hit from one side," it's gonna be the left side. So that's another thing that you get from a Caleb Freeman. But man, I just going to the catcher thing. I think that obviously, yeah, we're gonna talk about this here in a second. Trying to go after potentially like a legit full time guy. But what he does is he allows Jim Schlossnagle to, at the very least, have a competition.
Hmm.
If we're not able to grab another guy, if we're not able to have Rylan Galvan come back, then you're not forced to say, "Hey, we got a true freshman in Cole Chamberlain. Go, go. Just
Year
hopefully
two,
we get
you're
something
in.
out. Hopefully we get something out of that, right? You're not living off of hope and a prayer. So it's one of those deals where I think that he gives the coaching staff a lot of flexibility, and I know I mentioned versatility like probably 10 times already, but just the versatility that he has and his ability to play almost any position on the field, that's something that I really cannot be overlooked.
It sounds like Sark with all this versatility talk. There's also another transfer who came in even earlier in this week, and you're going to correct me if I get it wrong. I kept getting it wrong in the pre-show. Jack Maranek, is that
Hey,
correct?
you nailed it. You nailed it,
That
brother.
Maranek, that K in the middle is there for no reason. But right fielder from Butler, corner outfielder, but he's going to play right field. The Max Blue replacement one for one. I wrote that in the article that I absolutely despise when people talk about, especially in pro football, when it's like he's getting into the Travis Kelsey role of the offense or whatever with the coordinators. Like it's not how it works. But kind of what's happening here with this guy because 1145 OPS at Butler, 18 home runs, was easily their best player, and you're really seeing even more just past getting a lot of left-handed hitters, like you were talking about. The real theme of this cycle for Saucingle has been we want these guys from the G5 is not really a thing in baseball as much as football. It's maybe G12, but getting these guys from these lower conferences who are on not particularly good teams, but were just absolutely the best player and the best hitter on their team. And all three of these guys in Livingston, Freeman, Muranek is they are the best hitters on this team who are good enough to play in the SEC. And that's the SEC Player of the Year, Aloy from Arkansas. He was playing at what was it, Sacramento State 2 years ago, and now he's the best player in the SEC. And I think Schlossingle's diving into that where these are the kind of players that aren't going to demand as much NIL money. And we'll talk about maybe a position that may be doing that later on the show. But someone like Maranek is going to be a really, really productive hitter, immediately take the place of Baloo, potentially be one of your first 3 to 4 to 5 hitters in the lineup. And it's not going to come from some crazy price because you're not poaching from LSU or Arkansas or getting another player from the ACC who's coming in. So this was probably my favorite pickup. I think this will be the one that has the most impact on the lineup, the most counting stats in the year as long as he's healthy. I'm really excited for what he's going to bring to this team.
Yeah, I mean, this dude not only I think that when you want to go and look, and also you were correct. Aloy came from Sacramento State, so
Mm-hmm.
like, and this is a lot. This is also like how a lot of these big time programs, end up like you look at Arquette, Avia Arquette from
Yeah.
he Texas fans, y'all might recognize that name. That might be because you saw him beat Texas at the dish at Washington. So, not good memories there. But it's like him coming from a smaller school. It's easy to just say, yeah, let's not call him the Max Blue role, right? let's not let's pump the
I'll
brakes
pump
on
the
the Max
brakes.
Blue talk. But this is a dude that I mean, when I'm pulling up Caleb Freeman stats right here because they're both kind of corner outfielders. Like they can play the same position, but you go and you look at this. Caleb Freeman's a 349 hitter. Marnick's a 372 hitter, and they're pretty much the same at bats. Marnick has a little bit more, power to send the ball out, and
Hmm.
then he's also hitting the ball a little bit more consistently. Like these are some really dangerous bats, and
Yeah.
I know it's like kind of hard to say, because there's a lot of the favoritism talk, but like I had a comment on the Inside Texas post that I did for Freeman, and the guy was like, "Yeah, hey, my buddy's a head coach for Georgia State," and he's like, "This dude's going to be the best player on y'all, best hitter on y'all's team." I'm like, okay, I understand
Yeah, your buddy
there's
from
some
Georgia State
favoritism,
says
but
that.
there are some studs that still stayed on the roster, and there are still, you got this Jack Marnick dude who 6'3".
Yeah.
This dude is he's a biggin, right? You're definitely gonna sense his presence at the dish. And another thing that I like is he seems to not really strike out too much. I mean, obviously you would like to get the strikeout numbers down a little bit lower, right? But he's up there. He's actually taking some really good hacks. He seems to be taking, pretty selective with his pitches. Not a real speed guy that you're going to see, burning, stealing a lot of bases. But this is a dude that he could come in and have a huge just an absolutely massive impact, and really, honestly, boost his draft stock a lot.
Yeah, I think something we neglected with Freeman is he's really patient. He's a guy that's gonna his outside swing percentage on just balls that aren't or on
Oh,
balls that
he
are
hardly
balls.
chases,
He rarely chases, and that's something that annoyed the hell out of Texas fans this year is the amount of strikeouts that even someone like Rylan Galvan, arguably the best player, was top two in strikeouts on the team. Someone like Tommy Farmer really struggled with that this year. So I think that's you talking about the 6'3" is also important because Schlesinger said from the very start of the year, and I remember in early press conferences what struck me about him is he wasn't afraid to admit that his team was a work in progress, even though they didn't have a chance to add more players. He wants more athletes. He wants guys who are big and strong and tall and fast and all that in between. And 6'3" guy coming from Butler doesn't sound right, but if he's going to swing the ball well and he's going to be this huge, intimidating hitter, that's the Max Blue replacement. It really is that. And I know we've talked kind of a lot of football comparisons today, but when you're getting from these G5 schools, it's not like you're getting an offensive lineman who's playing against nobodies. Like the pitchers are still very good in these leagues, and there's not as much of you're not physically going one for one against people. You're having at bats and you're playing defense and you're throwing the ball. It's stuff that's way more translatable in the game of baseball, and that's why you see so many good players come from these smaller schools. So, I mean, I think this Marinek, he is someone who may have a little bit of a case to go to the MLB draft and actually sign with wherever he gets taken. I've seen about seventh, eighth round is where he's projected now. So that is something to keep in mind. It's kind of similar like Ruger Riojas for Texas right now, where he is in the draft. He probably won't get drafted, but it's part of the story at least. But overall, I think just a really good addition to this Texas team.
Yeah, I mean, this dude, like, I think that when you look at both him and Caleb Freeman, right? So, Caleb Freeman end zone contact rate, because this is something that Texas struggled with this year, the ability to hit a fastball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Caleb Freeman, his fastball rate, his end zone contact rate on a fastball is 93.3%.
Pretty damn
Martinek's is
good.
90%.
Yeah.
And then Martinek is an 87% end zone swing. So basically, if the ball's in the zone, he's swinging. And I don't know his chase numbers, but I'd imagine, given the strikeout numbers, that those are low, right? And so this is, an added, like you said, especially with a guy like Marnick. Are we out of the woods 100% with the draft? No, we're not, right? Uh, but this is also these are also guys like you said with Riojas. I kind of I feel a lot. Also, I kind of, having watched a little bit more Riojas, you kind of, and also, being on the team, I kind of have a little bit better feeling of getting Riojas back.
Oh, me as well. Yeah.
From the MLB draft, like surviving the MLB draft. So, but Marnick, yeah, I mean, the power absolutely there. The chase numbers are low. Uh, ability to hit a fastball, and to me, the fastball one, that's the one that's probably one of the biggest ones, and it's one of the little more underrated ones because it seems so simple, right? But if you're able to not chase the slider that's just off the edge of the plate, you're able to work yourself into a good fastball count. I mean, now all of a sudden you're in a
Off the
situation where
way.
hey, we're hitting doubles or we're hitting home runs, baby. You know, we're getting ribbies now if there's guys on base. So really a guy that I hope that we can survive the MLB draft with because this does feel like one of those dudes that has could have a massive impact if he stays on if he's
Yeah.
on the 2026 roster.
Potential all SEC level player. I think, like I said, he was my favorite guy. We're gonna hear from Lux first, and then we're gonna get a little bit into some more transfer portal news now. Comer, if you want to send it over right now.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
So Texas has added 3 hitters in the portal. It's 2 lefties, which was something Schausingle knew had to come in, and then the switch hitting bat, which basically counts as a lefty in your order. The lineup's a lot more balanced now. Texas has done some good work already. I know it was a little slow, but Nash, I think we should go into a little bit of a draft here and talk a little bit about what's left for this Texas team because there's still, the portal doesn't like technically end July 1, but it's kind of the end date. It's weird with baseball, but there's about 2 weeks left for this Texas team to really get it going and get their guys in. So I'm going to start first with what I think is the biggest need. I think everyone here sees it as the biggest need for this Texas team is that shortstop position. I published an article this morning about it, but that is the spot. After the year, I saw about 4 scenarios of what this team could do at shortstop. One was Carson Luna is good enough to go play there, and he immediately enters the portal. And that was probably the worst case scenario for Texas if that's how it worked. But that was a possibility. 2 is Adrian Rodriguez goes and plays there because that was his position in high school. Maybe they see that as his long-term position with the team. From what it seems like, I don't think he played well enough at second base or even third base to make that so confident that Schausingle wouldn't add anyone in or wouldn't get a replacement, some competition. I don't think that's going to happen. Then there's Jalen Flores, who still has eligibility to come back. Before the year, it seemed like no question he was going to be an MLB draftee going to the MLB draft. Then he had a bad year, and he didn't look very good, and there's still a chance he could come back. You never know at the MLB draft where he gets taken. So that might just be the solution right there is he returns. Or, of course, you look into the portal. And I think one of the reasons that this has taken so long when we've been reporting from the very start about Hakopian and Becker from some East Coast teams, Maryland and Virginia, is Texas is looking at the big guns here. It seems like this is the position where they want to get. It's arguably the most important position on the field outside of catcher defensively. And you're thinking that Texas is really looking to get their star here, their number one guy, someone who is going to be a first round pick in the 2026 draft, 2027, whatever it may be. And that's going to come with a lot of competition with other SEC schools, a lot of money talks with these players, and just time. And that's why we haven't heard a lot about it. But shortstop is the position where you look on the team, and the only person who can really even play there right now is Jaden Duplantier, I believe, is still on the roster. He hasn't entered the portal. I'm glad about that. Love my gumbo salad. But that's not who your shortstop is. That's the only position where I'm going, hey, there's absolutely no one here. And I think this just has to be a spot that Texas takes. And that's the number one spot for me where it's like, we're just waiting. I need to hear that eventually, but when is that going to come? And I think that will happen eventually for Texas. They're either going to get some news about Flores or they're going to get a big name in the portal. And that's where that CDC money is going. But what are your thoughts on that, Nash?
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, really in the next couple of weeks, we're really going to start to see the portal kind of not only just ramp up, but kind of come to a close. I kind of like to think of it as the MLB draft, July 13th. That's pretty much the set in if a
Mhm.
guy's not on the roster at that point, he's probably not going to be on the roster on
Yep.
December 31st when it comes time to finalize the rosters. At shortstop, man, that this is a deal where if we don't land Becker, like in my opinion, you got to do whatever you can to get Jalen Flores back on this roster.
Yep.
And I know that this is like a sore spot for some Texas fans that y'all are upset that there's some errors that are made in crucial times. I mean, it is what it is. You kind of just got to call it what it is. But at the same time, you also have to call it what it is. Jalen Flores is one of the best defensive shortstops that we've had at Texas. Period. Right? Just like you don't have to say in a time period. It just in the sentence. So this is and then also on top of that, you've seen what his bat is capable of. Yeah, it fell 100 points. That's not good, right? But still, he has the capability of being a 340 hitter. He still showed that he has a lot of that power. The power's still there. It was just, in my opinion, it was a matter of hitting the ball well. Getting
Mhm.
a good strike on the ball because his batted balls, I think it was about the same. Like it was about the same rate. It was just a matter of whether or not he was hitting pop ups or not. And it's just like shortstop is one of these positions where it is so important.
Yep.
I just like you get like it is also one of those positions where you are willing to accept a loss offensively. Like you're willing
Mhm.
to say, you know what, I'm okay if I have an elite defensive shortstop. I'm okay with you hitting low 200s, mid 200s. Right? I'm willing to swallow that and accept that. But it's again, if Texas can't go out there and land Becker, uh, it feels like we're at a situation where we probably have probably. I mean, and this isn't really too much info or anything like this. Is just kind of common sense. It feels like we kind of put Brett Becker as like the front of our board. Like that's the guy that we're going after. When you start dating someone, when you're trying to go after somebody, you kind of have to. You can't just you're gonna kind of put all your eggs in one basket. You can't just put your egg here, put your egg here, put your egg here, put your egg here. That's how you end up losing out on everybody. And it's one of these deals where I don't see a Chris Hasopian, or I'm apologize for mispronouncing his name, but uh, I don't see that guy, the Maryland transfer. I don't see him making it onto the roster. Uh, he's like an offensive first, defensive second
Yeah.
shortstop, but it's just one of those deals where Becker, he's a really good defensive shortstop. He's a really good offensive shortstop. This is a priority transfer, and yeah, I agree with you. This would be my first pick off the board. Uh, one on multiple wave leagues. One, hey, let's go get a legit stud and let's go try and win a natty.
Go win
Right. And
it.
two, right now I don't care is playing shortstop. That's a little Abner
There
Costello
is no one
reference
playing
for y'all.
shortstop.
Yeah, who's on first, right?
I do think one of the things that Schloss Single said all year that really echoes true with what we're talking about today is no team has ever won a championship with a bad catcher, shortstop, or center fielder. That's just the spine of the team in baseball is so important. Those are the most important defensive positions. They're in the middle for a reason. And like you said, I mean, Flores' defense this year, I think the very last game of the year made people forget that it was a very good. That was the question mark with him, and he really elevated his game as a defensive shortstop this season. And then, of course, the bat leaves, and who knows why that happened, but you still have to take what he is as a legend. I mean, he's kind of a Texas legend at this point,
He's
especially
in
if he
top
comes
five
back.
in home runs.
Yeah, he is. He's up there in a lot of these stats. So at the very least, a veteran and a good defensive player is something that has to return. Let's talk about your pick. What's your that 102 pick? What would your number one be outside of shortstop?
Yeah, I mean, you might have just spoiled it just a little bit there, but
Yeah, right.
we're going catcher. I mean, this is you want to talk about like important positions. Jim's like you said, Jim Schlossing said this. He's talking about, hey, we need a legit shortstop and we need a great catcher. I don't think I've seen a good team without a great catcher. And I will agree because it's one of those deals where the catcher's your tone setter, right? Like the catcher is the guy that if you look at good teams, right? The best teams, they have a catcher and that catcher started every single game.
Yep.
Right? This is when people talk about the leader in a locker room, right? The catcher is the position on the baseball field that's most akin to a quarterback. You go to there like it's on multiple levels, but like you also go to the level of, hey, they're the only positions on the fields on their respective fields that they can see every single thing that's going on in front of them.
Hmm.
Right? You're the furthest back on the field. Uh, as a catcher, that's why you're calling the shots. That's why you're saying, hey, 2-2-2, 3-3, right? Roll it. That's why you're barking out commands. You also have to have that presence, right? You have to be able to bark out a command to your team and have them like you got to have your team respect what you say. And it sounds as easy as just yelling it out, right? But you have to have a presence I almost said football field on the baseball field,
Football.
right?
Played
You gotta
center.
you gotta mentally be the leader. Like you're the guy that you're gonna be sitting there taking beatings, right? Left and right. And how you react to taking beatings is going to, honestly determine how your team reacts when they take a beating. Because it's like, oh, if they sit there and they watch a Garrett Gilmet or a Rylan
Mhm.
Galvan, right? Like if you remember Garrett Gilmet getting you know,
Yeah,
knocked in the head,
popped.
almost just
Yeah.
like legitimately out cold at home plate. I don't know how he got back in the game, right? But and then you go to also look at like Rylan Galvan this year, just left and right, just so many like weird just bounces, just they
Small
must.
little injuries here and there.
When you see those guys just hop right back up and get right back in it, what do you do if you're out in left field or something like that, and I got a little cramp or something like that. Yeah, no, you kind of feel it's hard to whine about that and complain, but all that to say, this is and as a former catcher, this is probably the most important position for me, just because you need that dude, and if we can't get Rylan Galvan to come back from the MLB draft, we have to get a top level dude.
Yep.
Like I know that I've talked about, hey, we've said, hey, Caleb Freeman, he has the potential to be a catcher, and I'm not rolling it out, right? But it's just this is one of these positions where I want a guy. I want a dude that's been back there for full time,
His
multiple
whole career.
seasons, like top of the not no disrespect to Caleb Freeman, but not JUCO catching, right? Like legit, I've seen it in D1 action. And off the top of my list, the two guys that I want the most are Carson Tenney, uh, which just off of, I mean, there's three finalists for the Buster Posey Award. Rylan Galvan's one. It would be pretty
Tony's
cool
one
if
of
Texas just went and picked up the
the other
picked
one.
up one
I
of the
said
other
potentially the
finalists
winner.
just to
I think
replace
Teddy
him.
might take it.
Yeah, and then also the Carson Bowen dude from TCU. That dude, like as far as like defensive catchers go,
Yeah.
that Bowen dude is a stud.
Yeah, and you're seeing it with Coastal Carolina right now. Like, I mean, having Bodine behind the plate, that guy is disgusting at framing. I mean, the way he commands the zone is insane. And I think Galvan this year, one of the biggest things I noticed about any single person on the team was just his mentality and the command that he has as a leader on the team from sophomore to junior year. He's just such a stone cold dude, and you could see that the infield really respected him out in the field, and that I mean, like players were coming to him for like he seemed like the team leader this past year, and he wasn't even a senior. So that meant a lot to this team. And man, you'd love if he would come back and not go to the draft. But it's really hard as a catcher when you hit that well to not go and take your chance at the draft. It's like it's like a running back having a 1,500-yard year in their junior season. You got to go. Like that's probably what's probably going to happen with Galvan.
Yeah, it's for Galvan, it's just he stuck between a rock and a hard place, right?
Seriously.
And it's one of these deals where if Rylan Galvan, if you were to inject Rylan Galvan with the truth serum, he probably says, I want to go back to Texas, right? And we're not saying that he doesn't want to, like he's dead set or anything like that. We don't know, but just using what we've learned from baseball in the past, when like you said, when you're a catcher and you're not like a Bodine or something like that, like you're not one of these like top level dudes. You gotta, I mean, you're just he's in a situation where if he comes back next year, he loses a lot of leverage in the MLB draft process.
Yep.
and because he can't come
Year
back,
older.
right? He only has one
Yeah.
option. So it's just one of these deals where it sucks, right? But unless Texas offers a really really big bag, I mean, it's hard to see. I might go slap Rylan Galvan in the face for passing up that money.
Yeah, and like you're hoping to see this guy go and catch in the MLB in 4 or 5 years and make a living off of it. It's just it's hard to say, but it's just greener pastures for him there. Let's go over to our next pick. I'm going to go again here, and I think one it's not just one, it's three or four is left-handed pitching, because it seems every sign points to Dylan Volantis being the Friday starter next year. He's just too good of a pitcher to keep him in the bullpen. Luke Harrison's a lefty; he's a starter. And then Cade Bing is probably in line to take one of the two last starting positions, potentially. We don't know. Outside of that, the only other lefty on the roster who had any sort of role last year was Ethan Walker. And he didn't pitch the whole year. He was very end of the year. They started using him as this starter opener role. He did really well against Tennessee. He's had some really good times where he came in for one or two lefties, but he was a specialist more than anything for the majority of the year. And he was a young guy coming from a JUCO. Texas just needs to add depth and numbers. Maybe having a number one lefty in the bullpen to complement Grubbs and potentially Riojas there, and Saunier is and Burns too. Man, this bullpen's deep with righties would be great, but they just need a left-handed pitcher. They need someone who can come in when a team's stacking the lineup with lefties and shut the door on them, and that's something important. That's something where Slauson and Wiener are going to look for a tall, athletic guy and someone potentially either with SEC experience, but maybe from a lower team, or like the JUCO D2 stars. That's kind of what you have to look for with lefties.
Yeah, I mean, this team is in dire need of left-handed pitchers. I mean, you look at, like you said, two of the starters right there are lefties.
Yep, and potentially
That's
third.
Two of the current four arms that we have on the roster. And then you go all and you add into, okay, well, let's look at the incoming freshman class, right? Surely Texas has surely when Texas has 10 righties and four lefties, this is a lefty dominant class. No, you'd be mistaken, my friend. We only have two lefties and I think like 10 or 8 righties. It's a ridiculous number. But all that to say, you once you get the guys that pass on the MLB draft and they come to Texas, you end up with a really lopsided roster, and it's a chance that we only get one lefty from that recruiting class. So this is a deal where not only like you said, man, not only do you need depth, but in my opinion, we honestly really need to get some legit arms, because it's just one of those deals where you're gonna have to. You can't just rely on a Cade Bing, and I know Bryce Navarre, he really high recruit, like high prize recruit, This is a dude that we could see doing some special pitching for Texas in the near future, but we just can't trust on that right now. You can't bank on it right now. And so outside of Bing, I mean, you really don't have anybody that could come in for relief. Well, we're going to need to add some arms here. And this is one of those positions where, man, just start stocking up the grocery cart, just load that thing full of left-handed pitchers.
Yeah, it needs to be guys not like Bing who would come into the fourth inning. It's seventh, eighth inning guys who are going to make high leverage. There's Robert X. Mitchell in this class, which is an awesome name. 6'4" left-handed pitcher, probably not going to go to the draft, so looking out for him. What's your number 2 take here? Who else are you trying to add to this team, Nash?
I'm going with the bullpen arm. And kind of similar, like this kind of all like branches a little bit off of what we just talked about with the lefties. Right. But at the same time, we need one of these arms that like you mentioned in your story. We got Riojas, we got Grubbs, we got Burns, right? You got Saunier. You got some guys, but outside of the other dudes like a Jason Flores, a Drew Rarick, a Hudson Hamilton, those guys are probably headed for more starting style roles. So getting one of these guys like almost honestly almost like a Ruger Riojas from last year, like, hey, could be, could
underrated
be
guy.
Could work, could could be nothing, could be a nothing burger, but could really end up being a really good guy for the team. I think grabbing one of those style of guys, you can in the game of baseball, especially college baseball, you can never have enough bullpen arms, like just never. Uh, so that's probably where I would go to getting a bullpen arm because also I think that you talked about this too. In your article, it's Aiden Moffat might actually go to the draft. I mean, there's a possibility there. So you're going to want. I know this isn't a guy that pitched a lot last year, but if he still is on the roster, he's going to have a role moving forward pitching. So if we lose him, I mean that just only adds on to the bullpen arm conversation.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of this year, this offseason is going to be deciding which of these guys are we going to have be starting pitchers. Is Rarick a starter? Is Navarre a starter? Is Hamilton a starter? And it's either let's go find a bullpen arm because we want a lot of these guys to start, or do we need a veteran starter, a Sunday guy to come in because we want these guys to be bullpen arms. There's a lot of options at pitching for Texas, and a lot of guys coming in before draft because the freshman class, but not a lot of complete answers yet. We're going to go through some very quick last ones. I do think that if you can get a starting level power hitting first baseman, I'm not against that. And that's one where you need to solve the other things first. Let's not focus on that one. Our shortstop doesn't exist yet, and our catcher is either in the draft or a guy who's catching a JUCO. But the goal for me with Livingston as a transfer is, can he be the 10th man? Can he be a really good hitter that can come in matchup wise, or if there's an injury? And in that case, you would have a starting catcher, a starting shortstop. Maybe Freeman's the first baseman. Maybe he's the DH. You still got Rodriguez. You still got Jonah Williams. This would be a luxury pickup, right? Especially given that Easton Winfield's still on the roster, Cole Chamberlain's still on the roster. You've got a pack coming in, probably not going to go to the draft, a speedster in center field, Duplantier. If someone like Gavin Feen, who is, Casey Cunningham's the number one recruit in this class, and he is going to be a top 15 pick, and he's going to go to the draft. Didn't even mention him in our shortstop talk because he's not coming to Texas. Feen is one where maybe in the 20s to 30s, he gets taken. He goes, you know what? I don't want to go play for the Rockies. I'm going to go come to Texas. And that's your answer at that first base corner infield position. But if there's some crazy power bat that you can just instantly saw on the four-hitter spot who really wants to come to Texas, I'm all for it. That's maybe a luxury, and that's why it's the third pick in this draft. But I think it's something that could happen.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. Like, that's one of those deals where, and then that only adds on to the whole versatility conversation that we've had. I mean, you look, Josh Livingston is also a really versatile guy. Plays second base, played, I think, dabbled in a little bit of the outfield, played first base. So that would add a little bit, some more versatility. But in my opinion, what that really does more than anything is it allows Texas to be have dangerous pinch hitters.
Yep.
Like we're almost at that point, we can almost guarantee ourselves to, hey, we have a guy that we can trust to go out there and, give us a quality at bat and give us some good pinch hitting. Because I mean, this is also, what if we get a guy like, obviously we're going to keep on Cole Chamberlain, but what if we can hold on to a guy like an Easton Winfield and he doesn't hit the portal and leave, right?
It's another
now, all of a sudden, if you have a situation where we grabbed a priority level first baseman that's just a legit stud, and you're sitting there with a legit Josh Livingston, legit Easton Winfield, and legit Cole Chamberlain, where, hey, these are dudes that if you have a lefty pitcher up there and you have to shake something up and you need to get a pinch hit in, right? Like you can do that without sacrificing a lot, and they can also, like I just mentioned with not like I just mentioned, but with when you go to Cole Chamberlain and Livingston, both those guys can also fill into first base. So I really do like the idea of going and getting like a legit, hey, I've played first base full time. This is what I do. I'm also really good at offense. And I think also, too, one of the more underrated parts of a first baseman is athleticism. That's one of the most athletic positions on the field. But you're willing to sacrifice that athleticism if you get a legit bat.
Yeah, you get a big guy to go hit some bombs.
Yeah, and so I guess going on to my final draft pick, what I would do is I would just say, hey, right now we got Ruger Riojas. He's coming back. He will be a starter, right? If if everything stays the same. But I say, why does that have to be the case, right? Why do we have to have Ruger Riojas as a starter? And I'm not saying this is Ruger Riojas is bad. I just think Ruger Riojas is better in that kind of high leverage role, like where he can come in, he can pitch, 6-8 batters in one game, 6-8 batters in another game.
Yep.
He can come back and you can see him multiple times in one weekend versus seeing him only once in one weekend. And then having him and Grubbs, that would just be a dangerous little bit of a, high leverage. We got two guys that we can go in and trust, in high leverage outings. So if we can go out there and we can get a legit priority, hey, like this guy, he has started before, sub 3 ERA, like over 50 something innings or something like that. That's something that I would really be intrigued to see, because you can never have enough pitchers, you can never have enough starters, and it would allow some flexibility to the staff, because at the very least, if Ruger Riojas holds on to a starting job, now you have a legit long reliever.
Yeah, then this guy goes to the bullpen. I think Riojas looked his best this year when he was facing the lineup once and getting eight or nine guys out, and it was in the 5th, 6th innings to set up Volantis. But everyone's going to have to step up a little bit each year. Yeah, and I think he would be a fantastic player if, the 5th inning, you get your starter through 5, you have 6th, 7th innings between any of these guys that we've talked about before, and then you've got Riojas and Grubbs right after. That's pretty dominant of a rotation. So I do think if it was to be a starter, it would probably be someone who's gotten the experience in a bigger league, one of the Power 4 leagues, and someone who's older, can be a leader in the clubhouse. And I do like the idea of maybe we need a Sunday guy, especially if Volantis hasn't started in college yet. So that's something to think about. We can yap for hours and hours about what this Texas team could do in the portal and what the team will look like next year. But I think we've covered a lot of what this team is going to be looking like. They're not done in the portal. A lot of left-handed pitchers are probably going to be added. There's going to be at least 2 more bats added, in my opinion. But there's still so much left in this offseason that it's so exciting. It's good that Schlessinger's been working hard recently, because we were starved for some articles to write about this baseball team. I think that's going to do it for us today, Nash. It's been a great one. Any last thoughts? Sound like you want to add something right there?
I was just going to say, yeah, I definitely could see us adding some more outfielders, because like we talked about Marnick, it's not even a 100% guarantee that he even makes it onto the roster. So this is a deal where the portal is far from over, but things are going to start. The portal is about to start flying at a rapid pace, especially as teams leave Omaha and they start to, get their rosters built. July 1st, that deadline is coming real fast, and it only gets faster as each day passes.
It's going to be a really interesting month and really exciting. Nash, I'm going to go hit the beach here in Cancun. I hope you're going to have a great rest of your day. Thank you guys to everyone who came along and listened, came this far into the episode where we're talking about off-season baseball content. We love our viewers to do that. As always, go over to Inside Texas for up-to-date and always immediate reports on stuff like transfers, everything baseball. Football recruiting is going crazy right now, so make sure you're going over there and subscribing. It's the best content you can find for Texas football, baseball, basketball, any kind of Texas sports on the internet. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Evan Veith, Nash Talks Texas. As always, have a good one.
Welcome.